Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly. A soft launch after the international break with an FA Cup quarter-final preview. Man City, Liverpool, the tie of the round with Southampton, Arsenal and Chelsea, Port Vale, the chances of a giant killing. On Chelsea, there's some classic players saying stuff on international duty. Marc Cucurella and Enzo Fernandez not sounding too excited about the current setup, while the club announces a gazillion-pound loss, but still within PSR somehow. It's a big weekend in the Championship and we haven't tackled Nigel Farage at Ipswich yet. Nick Ames has been to Kosovo, we'll ask him about that. There's some hair-pulling in the Women's Champions League to discuss, and news of Barry's VIP half-marathon treatment. We'll do all that, answer your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Barry Glendenning, welcome.
Hey, Max.
Hello, Jordan Jarrett-Bryan.
Hello, mate.
And good morning, Nick Ames.
Hello, Max.
Very nice to talk to you. For the tape, that's about the 20th time I've said hello to Nick Ames, and his Wi-Fi cuts out as soon as you say hello to him. So it's amazing we've got this far. Let's look ahead then to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. Man City, Liverpool, Saturday, 12:45 kickoff is the tie of the round. I guess possibly the biggest story is Liverpool, Jordan, and how important the FA Cup might be to them and whether it'll save Arne Slot's job.
Well, yeah, because my thinking with this is that I think the Champions League run would be the bigger, in terms of qualifying for it, was the bigger determinant of whether he is the Liverpool manager next season or not. I think a trophy in the bank, if they can get the FA Cup, would be great for them. But I think the more important thing for them, or him, in terms of keeping his job, would be finishing in that top five, because I think it would optically look horrific if they went from champions to not even qualifying for the Champions League, especially with 5 slots now. But obviously financially, in terms of the footballing project, to not qualify for it, I think would be really, really bad. So the FA Cup for them, I think, would maybe keep the Wolves at the door for a little while. But I reckon if you offered the Liverpool fans Champions League qualification or the FA Cup, I think a lot would say that they'd rather be in the Champions League next season.
It's interesting, Jordan, we're sort of trying to work out what would save Slot's job. Do you think it is a valid conversation, Barry, that we're even asking what Slot needs to do to keep his job? Or do you think the Premier League title should give you grace to have another go and not work it out?
No, I'm not surprised that we're having this conversation. We have beaten the drum regularly this season that because of the tragedy that happened last summer, Liverpool should get a pass this season. Not everyone agrees. A lot of Liverpool fans are very frustrated with the way their team has been playing, with the manner in which they've reinforced the squad, and the squad has got worse. So I guess I understand that frustration. I think the FA Cup is important to them. I'm not sure winning it would help save Slot's job if he doesn't qualify for the Champions League, but winning it is certainly better than not winning it. They have beaten City in each of the last 4 meetings in the FA Cup, for whatever that's worth. City are on a 17-game winning streak at home in the Cup. They've been in 7 successive quarterfinals. Pep takes this competition very seriously. I think he will put out a strong team. Manchester City can't really put out a weak team unless they, go down to the kids. And it's really hard one to call. I think City will probably prevail, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't.
What do you think, Nick? I mean, we saw how much Pep celebrated winning the League Cup. To give you, and maybe read far too much into that maybe this is his last swan song. And given the title is not out of reach, but will be difficult, and they're out of the Champions League, a double cup season is good. Right? I mean, it sounds ridiculous. Of course, it's good for pretty much anyone, but for City, it is still just about above par, would you say?
It would absolutely do in the circumstances, I think, and I've got no doubt, and as Barry says, we can be proved wrong in 48 hours that both managers will go for it in this one. It was the big ticket ding dong clash in the Premier League just a couple of years ago, and the optics of getting shellacked in it are pretty bad for whoever it is, and I think it's a massive chance for them both. You win, you come out of it, and you probably, along with Arsenal, if they win at Saints, which we'll come to, you're red hot favourites to win the cup. And I do think it is bigger for Liverpool, honestly. I think the PSG game ahead of them is massive, but they're not going to be favourites for it at all. It's coming up 4 days later, Wednesday. So I think there is more on it for Liverpool, but I think there'll be an edge to this one. I think there'll be maybe a bigger edge to it than people expect.
Yes, Jordan?
Sorry, just to add to that, just quickly, from a City point of view, I've been thinking about how people have been framing their season. There's lots of talk around this being generally a bad season for Manchester City. And I was at Wembley for the Carabao Cup final, and after I was kind of got over sulking and ranting and raving about Arteta's tactical flaws in that particular match, I then turned to thinking about what is a bad season, right? And I thought to myself, well, if City can win one, maybe two domestic cups, take Arsenal to the last game of the season and finish second, for a big club, that should be a bad season. A bad season should be a cup or two and a title race, right? What we're seeing with Man United in recent years, Spurs, even Arsenal in years gone by, and Liverpool arguably this season, is when a big team has a bad season, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, or even lower. That is not acceptable for a big club. But Manchester City, the talk has been this is a bad season for them. But they would say our standards are that high now. Our floor is one, maybe two domestic trophies and a title race that goes to the last week of the season. So I think what they're doing is, I think, what other big clubs should be aspiring to do, which is we can't win the title every single season. We can't win the European Cup every single season, of course. But there's got to be a minimum standard, and that has to be we've got to pick up something and push for a league title at the bare minimum every single season.
Southampton, Arsenal. Nick, you probably watched more of the Championship than the rest of us with your Ipswich supporting hat on, and Southampton are in absolutely brilliant form, aren't they? 1-4, drew 1 in March. They've got this manager, 32-year-old Tonda Eckert, who has done an absolutely brilliant job.
Yeah, and one of the impressive things about him is that when he took the job, they had a good run straight away, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's the real deal." Then they fell off a bit. And you think, okay, maybe that was the new manager bounce and a young guy who might find it hard to turn it around again. But now they're in superb form. They look very well balanced, a lot better than they have in recent times. Shea Charles looks like a very good player in midfield alongside Flynn Downs as well. And they're probably the classic team you wouldn't want to face in the playoffs at this point. They're the one that is in absolutely red hot form. So, I mean, why not? It's a moonshot for them against Arsenal now. We'll see what kind of team Arsenal pick. We'll see. I mean, I hate bringing it down this way, but we'll see whether Southampton really want the extra hassle of another game and juicing their squad to the max when they are in such a great position now in the Championship. But I think it'll be a good litmus test for them to see how much they've recovered under Eckert in the last few weeks and months. And I guess not too many people around there would be disappointed if they came out with a sort of honourable swinging defeat and could then get on with the business of what has become a promotion push late in the day. So I think that's a very exciting tie, actually, but I don't think there'll be too much devastation around St Mary's if they don't make it.
Sure, which takes the pressure off a bit, I guess. On Barry, on the sort of what the neutrals want, which is Arsenal to come second in everything, would you take Arsenal getting knocked out now, or do you want them to get to the final of this and the Champions League and, just really, really like hammer home being second in everything?
I think they'll win this. I'd be very surprised if they don't. It would be a bad result if they didn't win them. Obviously, a lot of this depends on how many of those, 10, 11 players who limped or were carried back from international duty on shields and stretchers and in the back of ambulances. How many of them managed to make miraculous recoveries ahead of this weekend? One presumes Arteta will field a semi-reserve side. I would imagine Max Dowman will play, given his brilliant performance in the previous round. He's a really exciting young player. I like watching him. It kind of speaks volumes about, if you look at the lineups for these quarterfinals, the 8 teams involved pretty much 7 of them have bigger fish to fry than the FA Cup. And the only ones who don't are Port Vale, and that's because they're more or less down already. They're at the bottom of League One, and I think they're pretty much doomed. But the other 7 teams all have more important things to worry about, and that's a shame, I suppose. Yeah, Arsenal should win this. It would be if they didn't, I think people would start talking about mentioning the B word again.
Don't say it, Barry. Don't say it, Barry. Don't say it.
I think you're right. And obviously, well, that is good news, and we'll get to Port Vale trip to Chelsea. That Port Vale will field their strongest side. We'll get to that. But Jordan, as an Arsenal fan, there is that was the problem, not just losing the League Cup final for losing the League Cup final's sake and not getting a trophy, but the fear starts to come in. And defeat here would rattle anyone, actually, I think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, if Arsenal were to get knocked out of 2 cup competitions in 2 games, that's obviously that's not good, especially to lower league opposition, with the caveat of respect to Southampton, who are playing quite well at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't expect it to alter what's happening in the league. I think that if this does, then that says a lot more about this team manager than even I thought. So I don't think they'll lose this game. I don't think it'll be an easy game. I think Southampton will really go for it. Arsenal will make changes. And I think the break, which has divided a lot of Arsenal fans, come at a good time. Some think that they would have liked to got back on the horse straight away after the final loss and got back going again. I think this break is actually needed. There's been a lot of games, a lot of football from Arsenal since the turn of the year up until this point. So I think the break actually, everyone's reset, lost the final, cool. Let's just refocus and hopefully kind of advance to the next round of the FA Cup. And I think they will.
What you said was a sort of tepid take on the Arsenal pullouts.
Well, a mango and lime, if you like, on the kind of Nando's hot sauce scale. First of all, Barry alluded to it earlier on about the whole talk around the pullouts of Arsenal players and, are they just pulling a fast one? Is it Mikel Arteta influencing the Arsenal players? That may well have happened, but I want to give actually Thomas Tuchel a little bit of credit, right? Because I think what's happened there is threefold. I think the first element of this is Thomas Tuchel, being a former club manager at the top level, recognising that Arsenal and Bayern Munich, because Kane pulled out too, have a couple of really big months coming up. Do they really need to be with England? They really need to be around that. They let them focus on that last couple of months. Secondly, he wants to get those managers on side. He's extended his stay with England to the Euros. I think he wants to keep the club managers on side. And look, I'll do you a favour, you do me a favour. So I think there was a little bit of that in there as well. I don't need these guys getting injured, not only for their club, but for the third element of this is selfish. I need Saka and Rice, and Kane, who are definitely part of my 11. I need them fit for the World Cup. So me playing them in 2 meaningless friendlies, that serves nobody. The players would rather have the couple of weeks off. I don't need to see them because I know what they're going to start for me against Croatia anyway. And the clubs aren't going to appreciate it anyway. So I just thought, yeah, we could talk about, Arteta, pulling out all these players, but I want to give Thomas Tuchel a little bit of credit in terms of recognising, reading the room. I don't need these guys. This benefits nobody. It's only a loss. If they get injured, Arsenal lose, Bayern lose, England possibly lose as well. So I wanted to kind of just give him a little bit of credit because we're quick to kind of call out managers when they call up players for meaningless friendlies. And then on Ben White, just a quick point on him. I think he should go to the World Cup, and just here's my take why. I understand all the whole, he can't play for England again. How dare he not give us an answer? Explain yourself. I'm ambivalent. I don't really care if he explains or doesn't. I get why the paying fans want to hear an explanation. I don't really care, right? But the reason why I think he should go to the World Cup is because whilst Reece James is quite clearly the best right back England have, one of the best players they have, I would say too, the injury problems are a concern. And Ben White is not battle-worn. You want players that go to the World Cup that are not knackered, that he hasn't played a lot of football this season, so there's that. And also, the best right-back for Bukayo Saka is also probably going to be Ben White. So whilst I get the whole nationalistic, how dare he put an English shirt ever again, he's a disgrace argument, all right, cool. If England win the World Cup and Ben White's in that team, no one's going to care.
No, I will turn my back.
No one's going to care.
Once he deserts this fine nation.
No one's going to care. So I don't think he will go to the World Cup, but I think it makes so much sense that he is at least in the squad. Also, finally, bar Gahey, is there a centre-back in that England squad that is clearly better than Ben White? I'm not sure there is. It's much of a muchness apart from Gahey, in my opinion. So those are the reasons why I think he should be included, whilst I accept he probably won't.
I'd say the take got hotter as it went on.
On the subject of these people who are demanding that Ben White explain his reasons for leaving the England camp last time, do we not all know? I mean, I know why he left the England camp. And if I know, I'm pretty sure everyone else knows. So why does he need... He had an argument with Steve Holland over not accessing some training, doing his homework, his pre-match prep. He fell out with Steve Holland and he left the camp. Why do we need to hear it from him when we already know what happened?
Can't believe what a spoiler you've given ahead of the documentary. I'm only on season one. I'm only in 1966 at the quarterfinal. I don't know if we've won yet. Chelsea played Port Vale. It was established Port Vale are bottom of League One with a goal difference of -25, one win in their last 5. So feels like unlikely that they will do anything at Stamford Bridge. I mean, it would be marvellous if they managed it. And they, it is a free hit for them. Marc Cucurella in the international break, speaking to The Athletic, was talking about how much he missed Enzo Maresca, which is some interesting sort of line of chat. We knew what Maresca wanted from us. Winning a title like the Club World Cup also helps strengthens the bond. You create relationships during the celebrations. When a manager gives you that confidence and offers you a platform to fight for titles, you die for him. The moment Maresca left, it had a big impact on us. These are decisions taken by the club. If you ask me, I would not have made this decision. To make a change like that, the best thing is to wait until the end of the season. The instability around the club comes from this in a nutshell. We had a caretaker first, then a new manager with new ideas and no time to work on them. It is what it is. They're interesting, Nick, on whether... I know Malagusto came out and said, we all love Liam Rosenior, but that is not a ringing endorsement of Rosenior from a very senior player.
No, and he's saying what seems obvious to people watching on, that, what are Chelsea? What is this club? What is this side? How on earth do you find the time and space to develop something there when you're chopping and changing so fundamentally? Now, obviously, Maresca had issues, with the club, partly related to injury management, I think, and when and how he was allowed to select certain players, partly off the back of the Club World Cup. But it did feel a bit of a strange one to see that deteriorate so quickly, especially off the back of a Club World Cup win. And I just, this is a totally anecdotal kind of take that I normally don't like it when journalists and fans and people are analysing body language and stuff like that, because everyone thinks they're a COD body language expert, and most of the time people get it wrong. But I was I was watching Chelsea the other week against PSG at Stamford Bridge, and obviously the press box, as most of you guys will know, is right behind the dugout, and the game was getting away from them, and you can see Rosenior really earnestly shouting out instructions and trying to cajole the players, and I just don't think anyone was listening. I don't think anyone was really engaging.
What was the body language? Did they have their fingers in their ears going, la, la? Is that...
that was easy to read body language. That was the okay body language to analyse. I see myself as a PhD candidate in that. But, sometimes you've watched enough football and seen enough stuff to know when something isn't quite right. And I just got the feeling that he wasn't cutting through. Now, I like him a lot. I think I respect what he's done before. I think he's an extremely articulate, bright guy, but it just doesn't seem to fit to me. And that all feeds back in to the broader point that Cucurella made, that Chelsea are chopping and changing from approach to approach to approach, and it's not helping them generate or garner any kind of momentum. And goes back to the whole 4 years of the Blueco kind of Clear Lake era, where it's just been a big spending cock up so far. It's been probably, I don't know, a Club World Cup title doesn't sound so bad, does it? But otherwise, it's probably the biggest failure in world football, pound for pound. I'm not surprised that the players are confused, and at a point where they feel happy to tell us that they're confused.
Yeah, because Enzo Fernandez also came out and was quite critical of the club hierarchy for firing Enzo Maresca. He said, I don't understand it. Sometimes as a player, there's things we don't understand. And the way they try to manage things, I don't have an answer for you because I don't know. And then he proceeded to twerk like Miley Cyrus in the direction of Real Madrid. So, and I think Cucurella was hitching his skirts in the direction of Barcelona. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up next season.
Yeah, on the subject of the money, Chelsea announced yesterday they've made the biggest pre-tax loss in Premier League history, £262 million deficit for 24-25, eclipses the £197.5 million lost by Man City in 2011. So many congratulations to Chelsea for this, despite them bringing in £490.9 million in revenue, which the club says is the second highest total in their history. That doesn't really count if you lose 262 million more, does it? The club insists they remain compliant with financial regulations such as profit and sustainability rules, which allow losses of over 105 million over 3 years. Figures used to calculate PSR are different to this pre-tax loss. But, I'm boring myself now. I don't know if anyone has a
Kieran
strong
Maguire,
view.
accounting's Kieran Maguire, friend of the show, has said that you can't really read into these numbers until they post their full accounts, which they haven't done yet. But apparently they will not fall foul of PSR guidelines because of that time they sold their women's football team to themselves.
Got it. Well, roll on them releasing their accounts. Maybe we'll do a pod special on it. And obviously, the best COD body language expert is Captain Birdseye, of course. Thank you so much. Here all week. West Ham Leeds 4:30. Just shaking heads. Absolute silence. Someone will have enjoyed it. West Ham Leeds, which we talked, Jordan, about. Feeling weakened sides, but both these sides. I think they have to play each other in the league as well later, and they
final
would
day of the season.
Final day of the season. So they would.
I think so.
They would. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they'd happily take defeat in this for a win in that one, Jordan.
Yeah, but why can't I have both? I mean, I would love it if both really went for this one. I'm still kind of irked by the Fulham exit from the cup from the last round. I don't understand. I think Crystal Palace have shown that. With the right intention, with a good team, you can get to the latter parts of the cup and possibly even win it. Now, a team like Palace or a West Ham or a Leeds won't win it every single year, of course. But I just thought that they should open the door for those other teams to just believe. And I get it. They've got other priorities. Being in the Premier League is a cash cow, yada, yada, yada. But I would really love it if they did just say, you know what, sod it. We're going to just put out a strong team. We want to win this game. You're not playing Man United. You're not playing Arsenal. You're not playing Man City. You're playing another team that's down there with you as well. You can win this. That would be my message to both these teams. You can both win this game. So whilst, again, I accept that they probably won't put out strong teams, you're probably right, Max. I would love it if they did.
What a boon for Manchester United to be included in the you're not playing ex-good club there. What a moment that is for them. They're back on the map. Yes, Nick?
I think it's time for Leeds to win a game. So I wonder whether he will go strong, especially with a clear week ahead, because we've had lots of great conversations about the relegation battle in recent weeks, and obviously Spurs is this slow motion car crash that's about to get maybe crash here with De Zerbi, and Forest are their own ludicrous soap opera, and that's all very entertaining and very dramatic as well. But Leeds can't win a game of football at the moment, and they're the ones that people aren't really talking about. And I think they've only won once since, I think it's mid-January. I think they beat Forest.
Sounds good from a Spurs point of view, to be honest. But yeah, you're probably right.
Exactly. And okay, they've only lost a couple since, but they're drawing all the time. And I think, I mean, again, COD psychology, but would it be a good boost for them to win probably their direct relegation rival, if we discount Spurs for a sec, away from home? Because at some point you've got to start getting that feeling back, or you get sucked right in. And I think I think they're in a bit more trouble than people think, and I just wonder whether striking a blow in what otherwise, yes, does look like a dress rehearsal for almighty set 2 in May would help them. I don't think they could afford to show up with a second string team and get turned over here. I think that's a slippery slope.
I think Nuno generally picks second string teams in the FA Cup. So I would expect him to do the same here. Leeds have played 5 times in London this season, haven't won any of them. I think lost 2, drawn 3. But of the 7 games they have remaining in the league, they still have to play Wolves, Burnley and Spurs, as well as West Ham. So they're big games for them. Yeah, I think both these managers would love to not have to play this match.
Yeah, you might be right. Destiny in their own hands. All right, that'll do for part 1. Part 2, we'll do Nigel Farage at Ipswich. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So a full fixture list in the Championship, League 1 and League 2 on Good Friday, and then again on Easter Monday. Such a great time to be a lower league fan, although terrifying. Obviously, the big game is Cambridge v Swindon, the Max Rushden David Squires derby, Thursday night. 8 p.m. kickoff. In the Championship, Borough Millwall, lunchtime on Saturday, is enormous, Nick, isn't it?
Absolutely huge. You've got Borough, who have wobbled a little bit in recent weeks. You've got Millwall, who I think a lot of people thought were going to do well and challenge in the top 6 this season. They've got a hell of an identity and a hell of a consistency as well, and they've been building through the years to this. Millwall sort of coming up on the rails, and they harshly lost at home to Blackburn a couple of weeks ago, but on the whole, absolutely flying, playing with a real vigour and intensity, and starting to feel that there's a confidence around them that they can really, really do this. And they came away from Ipswich with what was ultimately a deserved draw a couple of weeks ago. And I think if they can do the same at Borough, who play some lovely stuff, but the cutting edge isn't always quite there. Millwall just that little bit sharper sometimes going forward, I think. If they can come away with something, then we will have to start looking at the really serious possibility of Millwall being back in the Premier League and back in the top flight for, I think, the first time since, I think it's 89-90 kind of time, isn't it?
Since Sheringham and Cascarino. Ipswich are in a good spot, Nick, aren't they? They are third, 69 points, so level on points with Millwall. They have a game in hand on everyone, so they if they win that, they would go into the automatics 1 point above Middlesbrough. What do you make of their current situation?
The current situation on the pitch is that they've got a game in hand. They will have 2 after Saturday, and then they've got a month-long 8-game sprint, which, given the depth of their squad, you should fancy them in, although it's a lot of football and a lot of away games actually in that run, I think 5. So it's going to be very close. I think they can do it, but it's going to be a hell of a tight shave. And we'll have to see, and I guess this might be where you're going. We'll have to see what the off-pitch situation has unfolded in the last week or so. Obviously, it was a week or 10 days ago now when this goes out. We'll have to see what impact this has on things as well.
Do you think it'll have an impact? I mean, Nigel Farage turned up at Portman Road last week. Conflicting reports on whether he was invited by the club or not. The club issued a statement saying Ipswich Town Football Club has over several years hosted representatives from a range of political parties. The club remains apolitical, does not support or endorse any individual or party. The club will continue to engage with representatives from across the political spectrum as part of its role within the community. Ipswich Town is proud to be an inclusive, diverse and welcoming organisation that supports all members of the local and wider community. This commitment remains unchanged. Now, obviously, look, this is The Guardian. I can't speak for the three of you, but I imagine we're not all big Nigel Farage fans. I imagine a lot of our audience aren't big Nigel Farage fans. But the question would be is, if it had been a Labour politician or even a Tory or a Green politician, would we have the same feelings of rage about this? Or is it different?
Well, there is a principle here that Ipswich allow themselves to get used for political promotional means. I think that's incontrovertible. You had a picture that was taken of Farage as the banner on Reform UK's X account. You had videos taken from around the stadium. You had Farage on a Reform UK video speculating about Kieran McKenna's job. I mean, goodness. And I don't think that'd be acceptable if it was Labour, Conservative, Green, Count Bimface, whoever. Like I think we have to say there was a principle at play there, and there's a reason why you never see this stuff happen in this kind of way, because it's understood that you don't do it. And then obviously, yes, Nigel Farage is a divisive figure. That is exactly why there has been this reaction, because his politics does divide people. There are some people, a significant swathe of the country, who like it. That is up to them. There's a very significant swathe who don't. And it's very polarizing. That is why the debate has happened, because he is who he is. And one big misconception, I think, about this is that the argument, or a misconception that has mainly been, well, a conception that's been twisted, is that the issue was the way in which he was allowed to jump on it and use it as essentially one massive party political broadcast that made Ipswich Town look absolutely abysmal. It has been an absolute disaster. How was this guy allowed to do it? It's quite a switched on, it's quite a mixed nationalities bunch. There will be people in there who are fairly politically engaged, but Kieran McKenna, the football manager, who should be bothering with preparing his team for an 8-game run-in that is worth an incalculable amount to the club and to people's careers and everything. And instead, he's going to be the guy taking the questions, because the club themselves won't answer any about how this came about, how much they knew, why this came about. I just think the lack of accountability and communication and sheer common sense in this whole thing has been absolutely damning.
Jordan.
Just briefly from me, on this. I mean, I'm a massive cynic, right? And we're talking about Nigel Farage possibly using Ipswich to benefit himself, probably, maybe. I wonder if Ipswich have also used this opportunity to benefit them, or they've used Farage to benefit their purposes, because we're in the attention economy, right, where you started by asking if this was Labour or if this was the Greens or another party, would this be a big issue? Nigel Farage is the most famous politician in the country. I'd argue more famous than Sir Keir Starmer. I think more people know Nigel Farage, or the name of the person, than the Prime Minister. So I just wonder if the club, because how do you get to make those videos and all those photos and all those broadcasts without the club being in? He didn't sneak in on a club tour day sort of thing and take a couple of sneaky pictures by the pitch. These look like they're properly well done. So I can't help but think the club have been involved in this, and they've recognised that if we can get some publicity through Farage, good or bad, it puts our name on the map, and the great guys at Guardian Football Weekly will discuss us.
I mean, that's one of the issues here that you've correctly touched on, which is how much the club knew, because the kind of briefing beforehand, because Reform sort of signposted this the night before by tweeting saying we're soon going to Portman Road, and then the alarm bells started ringing among a lot of people. The briefing was, this was a bit of an ambush. They booked under a different name. The tour turned up. They showed up. We couldn't stop them from running amok. In fact, a few people at the club definitely knew, so I gather, for about 48 hours. It turns out that there was some kind of invitation given to Farage, stop by while you're in East Anglia, which he was for some campaigning a few days before. So the question is then, why don't you spend those couple of days preparing for what might happen? Like, okay, let's make sure that he doesn't come in with his social media crew and just do what he wants. I was talking about this to a contact who used to work at a top Premier League club in a senior role involving loosely comms, and they said, look, we had situations like this fairly often, not exactly the same, but similar-ish. And the first thing that we would do is say to the visitor, look, you can't shoot anything here for your own promotional material. You can't do it. This is a ground rule before we start. That clearly hasn't happened here at Ipswich. I'm not sure that Ipswich wanted themselves to be put alongside Reform UK for their own promotional purposes. I don't believe that at all, to be honest. But I do think that they were asleep at the wheel and didn't quite realise how big it was going to become and big it was going to blow up.
Well, around the same time he visited Portman Road, Farage said he'd had an invitation to go and visit Sunderland Football Club. And it seems he met Juan Sartori, the Sunderland minority owner, Uruguayan fella, at the Davos conference. And Sartori had said to him, you should come to a game. Now, he hasn't had an official invitation from Sunderland. I hope he doesn't get one, because the values Sunderland claim to promote, and indeed Ipswich, inclusivity and tolerance, could not be further removed. But just him saying that he'd been invited to Sunderland has already fomented a huge amount of division between Sunderland fans, because Reform and Nigel Farage are incredibly popular up on that, in that neck of the woods, because the people of Sunderland have been let down by the Tories and now they feel they're being let down by Labour. There's a very good chance Reform will have an MP elected in Sunderland at the next election. And I think a lot of people, a lot of Sunderland fans would welcome Farage with open arms to their club. I don't know if that's the case in Ipswich, but Reform are popular on Weir side. But Farage, he's a great admirer of Trump. He's widely associated with xenophobia. He's been accused of racism. He associates with people who've been caught making racist comments. And I think this is not a person anyone who loves their football club would want associated with their football club. He has no interest in Ipswich. He has no interest in Sunderland. He is against the football regulator. This is just naked opportunism.
I completely agree. And that'll do for part 2. Part 3, we'll begin with the Women's Champions League. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. In the Women's Champions League yesterday, Manchester United were 1-up on Bayern Munich, so it was level on aggregate until they conceded 2 in the last 10 minutes. So they are out. Chelsea were 3-1 down to Arsenal. They beat Arsenal 1-0 on the night, but go out 3-2. I guess the most controversial moment of this is Sonia Bonpasta sent off late on. And in a post-match interview, I don't know if any of you have seen this, she actually gets the phone out of the interview to say, look, Katie McCaig is pulling Alicia Thompson's hair and asking why she wasn't sent off. And I kind of think, Jordan, it's sort of fine for a manager to do this, to say, look, here is a thing. And because she was furious with the referee in the first leg, there was an absolutely ridiculous disallowed goal. And I think she's got a real point here again.
She does. I mean, I think I've ranted on this podcast before about how people respond to hair pulling in games, and it's just seen as, it's not that bad. It's disgusting. But I don't understand how any official didn't see it in real time and deem that a red card at the time. That just blows my mind. And I think this season alone, between the men's and women's games, there's been at least 5 incidents across the 2 top leagues, the Premier League and WSL, of players having their hair pulled. So it's definitely increasing. And I don't buy this. It's a reflex. When someone goes past you, I don't buy it. I think it's intentional. I think it's disgusting. And I think I would give it a really, really severe punishment. But you can't even get to the punishment because it's not even being red carded. It's not even given a red card offence. So and I think showing, like, literally look somebody is so bad. And I think unless we nip it in the bud early, this is going to continue into next season and beyond.
I would say my 1-year-old Willie Rushden, for him it is quite instinctive. See also biting, but hopefully he grows out of it. Yes, sorry, Barry.
I'm going to stick up for Katie McCabe here. I agree she pulled Alicia Thompson's hair. I agree she should have got a red card, but I also think she didn't do it intentionally. I believe her when she said she meant to grab her shirt rather than her hair. Just from looking at the footage, she was immediately apologetic. She also was standing nearby looking quite sheepish when Sonia Bombasta got sent off for complaining. I actually thought she was going to intervene and ask the ref not to punish Bombastor. So while I agree that the hair was pulled, I do believe her when she said she was reaching to pull out of the shirt.
Sure, but maybe intent doesn't matter. So
No, intent doesn't matter. That's what
Yeah.
I just said. She should have been sent off. But I don't think she meant to pull the hair.
Fine. Which would suggest that all players that just have so much hair that, like, you try and pull the shirt, but you just can't avoid getting their hair.
Let's make everyone in the WSL play with a buzz cut or a short back and sides.
Do you think so?
Let's stamp out the problem immediately.
Or a sort of a Def Leppard haircut, men's or women's. That is so much hair. Just
poodle perm.
Down. Yeah, a poodle perm. And you will get the opposition sent off. Nick, you mentioned going to Kosovo. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I just got back. I was at the playoff game against Turkey for the World Cup, and it's a story that I've covered ever since they played their first official game in 2014 against Haiti when they weren't even members of FIFA and UEFA back then. So their rise to what was the brink of a World Cup spot has been pretty extraordinary. So as soon as I saw that they'd beaten Slovakia to get to the playoff final, I was in Valencia at the time, actually covering Ukraine-Sweden. But as soon as I saw the final score of that game, I knew wild horses couldn't keep me away, so I hot-footed it to Pristina, where there was a massive party, a absolutely enormous vibe going on there. There was people, players saying it was the biggest occasion since Kosovo became independent in 2008. Huge build-up, people pouring in from all over the country and from neighbouring Albania, to which it's extremely intricately tied, closely tied, into the city centre of Pristina. And it was just an absolutely enormous carnival, like almost the like of which I haven't seen in this specific context before the game. And that was lovely in itself, to see the contrast from 12 years ago when they had this ragtag bunch of almost randomly selected players, whoever would play for them, and they were all, I remember before this game with Haiti, training on this rutted pitch beneath one of the most polluting power stations in Europe. Somebody would put a penalty in training, and then there'd be a belch of sulphur coming down from the tower above, and it was absolutely, it was no place to prepare, but it was what they had back then, and to see them going from that to this was really heartwarming, honestly. It's a story I've been back several times. The game, as everyone will know by now, they lost 1-0 to Turkey, very, very close. There was a lot of upset afterwards, because I think it was that close. They hit the post first half. The goal was a bit of a scramble from Turkey. There were chances to equalise, and I think in some ways they'd have felt better if they'd lost 4-0 and just been outclassed, which they weren't. But yeah, great occasion, a very close game. I think Kosovo have got a lot of players waiting to join them in future years as well, hopefully from the diaspora, which is very wide, obviously, across Europe since the difficulties and then war of the 1990s. So I think they've got a bright future, really, really improving. Fantastic young forward called Fisnik Aslani, who plays for Hoffenheim, who is worth looking at. I think most of Europe's top clubs are. And we'll see what happens. And then Turkey, of course, this was a bit of a moment in modern history for them too, because they, in a World Cup context, they came third in 2002, didn't they? And then disappeared. Nobody could qualify them. But here they are under Vincenzo Montella, who seems to have drilled out a bit of the kind of impetuousness from them, and they did quite a calm, measured, professional job this time. So we'll see them back in the World Cup, and maybe they're dark horses to be this year's dark horses, as we often say about them. So that on its own is an interesting story, simply because of what a football hotbed Turkey is. But yeah, I think if Kosovo had made it, it would have been the most stunning story in international football in many years, and I think I probably still wouldn't have gone to sleep since then, to be honest, because the party over there would have been crazy. But I think the progress they have made, and what football means in terms of representation of what is still a very young country there is absolutely profound, and I think nobody who was there will forget it.
I encourage everyone to read Nick's piece about that. Now, it's probably slightly less important, Barry, but you were very excited in the WhatsApp group about the news that the Premier League have made all of the games ever available to watch on their website.
Last night, producer Jesse revealed the news in the WhatsApp group that the Premier League have made highlights of every Premier League game available for free, which is pretty amazing, he said. To which I replied, I live alone, have no kids, and haven't had a proper girlfriend since 2014, but still find this news hugely underwhelming.
Well, it's good news for some people who want to go and watch Liverpool's, Newcastle's 4-3s or some Tony Yeboah or something. But anyway, it's there for you now if you have nothing else to do. Matty says, I just spent £495 on one face value ticket for England-Ghana in FIFA's last chance sale. Am I insane? I think by all accounts, they sort of keep saying there are last chance sales, but they might be holding some tickets back. We're going to do something on ticket prices in a big way because they are frankly ridiculous. And then we heard, that they're going to increase the prices of public transport as well, et cetera, et cetera. So not going to be a cheap World Cup. I don't know if anyone has an answer to this, but maybe they do. Do any of the panel have any match day superstitions? If not, do they want some? I have far too many, and I'm looking to offload some before next season, asks Charlotte or not.
My only superstition, and it's not a match day one, well, if it happened on a match day, is saluting magpies when I see them,
right.
Which is quite annoying when I'm out running because I tend to bump into quite a lot of them.
I see. And do you stop and have to bow, or can you carry on running?
Well, it's just if you see a solitary magpie, you just give him a salute and say, hello, Mr. Magpie, how's your wife? I think I've mentioned this before.
I think you have, yeah. But, what if that costs you victory in the half marathon? You lose by half a second because you're blowing in mile 12 and you've had to say, hello, Mr. Magpie.
Well,
can't imagine Wilson Kipketor doing that in the Olympics.
I'll take my chances. If it costs me victory, so be it. I did discover I've been offered VIP treatment in the London Landmarks Half Marathon.
Wow, okay.
I was rather hoping this would mean being carried around the course on a sedan chair, but that's not how it worked. But I will get to, I'll have access to what has been called a luxury toilet. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I'll also possibly be rubbing shoulders with Ian Beale from EastEnders, a.k.a. Adam Woodjatt, Joe Wiley, and who's the other one? Singer that won. Oh, Alexandra Burke. So, quite low rent celebrity entries.
What a back
to the
four!
London
What a back four that is.
Marathon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can't knock Wiley. Anyway, Orion Beale for that matter, or Alexandra Burke, Bleeding Love, wasn't it? That was a banger. Did she sing?
Leona Lewis, I think that was.
Oh, my apologies.
Hallelujah.
Alexandra Burke.
Hallelujah.
Okay. I mean, that's not really hers, is it? My apologies, Alexandra. But I loved the series.
I just have this vision of going to use the luxury toilet. Adam Woodjatt or Ian Beale coming out and going, I'll give it 10 minutes.
Feels as good a place to end. I should end on this. We did a lot on how sad we were for Italy, but football fans never forget. Invincible Asterix writing, not a question, but as a one-eyed Aussie, I will forever enjoy Italy not making the World Cup as karma for Grosso's dive in 2006, even if it was a penalty. I did feel a bit sorry for Nicky, though. Yeah. Well, Lucas Neal should never have gone to ground, but you're right. Massive dive, an absolute outrage, and you are right to hold on to these bitter things for the rest of your days. Anyway, that'll do for today. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jordan.
Cheers, pal.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Barry.
Thanks.
Football Weekly is produced by Tayo Papula and Jesse Howard, and our executive producer is Joel Grove. Back on Monday.